with Dignitas in overall standing so far. That's definitely where they'd like to be after a less than stellar start to Summer 2017, but they still got to get through Dig first. Jumping into bans, it's Shen and Fiora, immediately banned away by Cloud9, really targeting Someday up there in the top lane, as Kinnan is banned away by Dignitas.
And it's two champions that do like to stay in those side lanes. They do like to split push, exert that side lane pressure, control the waves. That's something that Someday really likes to do himself. Kennen, another one that he would like to play. He really is a top laner that excels through that greedy playstyle, and he has been crushing it in the NALCS this split. So we're going to have to see if Impact can really match up well with him.
LeBlanc, the second ban from Dignitas, looking towards that mid lane there. Jensen, the power player on C9 like we were talking about. Elise, the final ban from C9, keeping that one out of the hands of Shrimp.
So Zach does get taken off there. I was going to mention that, but Galio still up. That has been very high priority for a lot of teams when it is left open, and it is going to be locked in quickly. Lee Sin could be kind of the trade back on the other side, as Shrimp is a strong Lee Sin player. You can take that away from contracts, so you can look to grab something like that, and even a Caitlyn, which has been left up. That would be a very strong response to what a C9 has done here.
Now, yesterday, we saw Cloud9 in their series against Liquid have this similar situation happen. They were able to grab the Galio first off for Impact to begin a draft. He got destroyed in the laning phase. Very far behind in terms of farm, didn't really have any pressure, but as the game went on, he was able to have a real role in the team fights. He was constantly there in the thick of it, making sure that he was landing the CC, landing the knockups and the taunts. So look for this guy to be relevant, even if he falls behind early, as Gragas locked in initially for Dignitas, thinking about Lucian, but now switching over to that Caitlyn you mentioned.
And that's one of the advantages of playing a pure tank, someone like Galio, because no matter how far behind you are, you still have a massive amount of CC, you still have the damage reduction to protect your team from your ultimate, so there is a lot to be said for that. It's not as dependent on your lane phase as a carry. If you play Jace top or something and you get behind, you're probably going to be worthless for the rest of the game. But Galio, Maokai, Nautilus, these sorts of tanks, as we've seen in the LCS over the years, can still be relevant, even if you're down 50, 60, or more CS.
Well, Cloud9 going to decide to go ahead and mirror that bottom lane pick, picking up their own AD carry with the Varus. Sneak, you'll be on that one this time around. To deal with the Caitlyn. Varus having a little bit higher range than average for AD carries. Still not quite Caitlyn level, but still a very strong pick. We see him pretty frequently.
It's a good answer, and it's also something that is even prioritized sometimes above the Caitlyn, simply because teams sometimes do want that added CC coming out of that Varus, and it's something that you can combo very well with the Thresh as well as the Galio. If you can land a taunt into that, then you can hit up a hook after as well. So there's a lot of AoE CC already being drafted into Cloud9's composition.
Smoothie going to continue being the hook master as well. Yesterday we saw him play Blitzcrank, then we saw him play Thresh. Now he's going to be playing Thresh again here today, seeing if he can set up those plays, get those initiations there for his team. But Dignitas will look to shut that down with the Morgana pickup.
Yeah, and this is actually something that Big did yesterday against Immortals. Olay was kind of known for his playmaking champion pool, and they were banning so that you would be able to use the Morgana as a counter pick, basically, or use the Morgana as that last pick to try to pinch the champion pool of Olay. So, and now, obviously, feeling pretty comfortable on it, has played a number of competitive games, and the Morgana is a pretty strong answer to Thresh, as if you can time those Black Shields very well, you can obviously immune that crowd control. But that said, really top-level Thresh players have good ways of dealing with that. They can go flay one person, Black Shield gets used there, they hook the other. You can use misdirection. The Black Shield cooldown is also a lot longer than the cooldown of that death sentence.
Gonna target Contracts as champion pool now from the side of Team Dignitas. Try to keep him off of a couple of those options. Kha'Zix banned away. Cloud9 gonna go ahead and take Syndra out of the pool.
You're expecting Lee Sin to be banned by Team Dignitas unless they want to pick it and put Gragas top, which certainly could be the case, but I would really be surprised to see Lee Sin fall this far down with this much jungle bans coming out if Dignitas does not want to take it. So now Cloud9 kind of has to make the decision. Do they care about giving it over? Are they concerned that Dignitas could grab that Lee Sin in this round, or do they think that they'll be able to just grab it up anyway, or make something happen with a ban towards Heat?
Well, the new and improved in some people's minds, Rek'Sai has been banned away by Dignitas, so that jungle focus there. Renekton banned away by Cloud9, thinking that Gragas is potentially in the jungle, wanting to keep Someday away from one of those fighter, carry, duelist, 1v1 style top laners. But the Lee Sin, like you said, that's the risk you take.
And that's also why people do these flex picks, right? Like, you grab up the Gragas, you have now not only gotten yourself a powerful champion, but you essentially wasted one of Cloud9's bans. You still got the jungler that you wanted, and you still have Gragas in a role in which he can succeed. And likewise, Galio can be flexed to mid, and that I think is why Dignitas is just focusing their bans on the jungle, because you know that contracts must still pick a jungler. You don't know if this is going mid or top. And by doing that, you're guaranteeing some level of effectiveness from those bans, whereas, if you target Jensen, hey, they could just give it to him. If you target Impact, then, well, they can just give the Galio there, and you've kind of wasted your bans.
Well, one thing that's not too super surprising is seeing Cloud9 pick up that Orianna for themselves. Very safe blind pick there for the mid lane, especially considering they banned away the Syndra. That means that Ori was probably what they were going to be defaulting towards as the final pick for Cloud9 is Olaf there in the jungle.
Yeah, Olaf makes a lot of sense just based on the amount of champions that have been banned away. We have seen J4 come in too. Moon did play that, but I think that J4 as a jungler is kind of on a lower tier than Olaf. They both do work very well with Galio here also. I mean, you can speed up this Olaf with the Orianna, send him in, use the Galio ultimate to follow up, and that can be some very, very powerful initiation.
Well, the final pick for Team Dignitas. They were jumping back and forth there between Talia and Victor, ultimately deciding on the Victor to go up against Ori there in mid lane.
Yeah, this should be a pretty interesting game. Both teams are very heavily kind of centered around team fighting. This is not a split push type game whatsoever. You have two tanks in the top lane, you have playmakers in the jungle, you have control mages in the mid lane. Like, this is a very similar draft kind of across the board. So it's really going to come down to which team can get things done earlier in the game, and which top laners really are going to be the bigger playmaker. Can Someday be knocking in Sneaky and Jensen and getting kills that way, or is Galio's kind of just base level of effectiveness and damage reduction going to reign supreme?
Yeah, it's all about that execution in the team fight. If you're both playing towards the same goal, whoever can manage to play that better, well, they're going to be the one who comes out on top. And with both these teams currently in the conversation for the top of the NA LCS Summer Split table, this should be a really interesting match because we have a lot of teams competing for a realistic shot at being the best in NA LCS 2017 Summer Split. And these are two of them. We got 5 of them. Immortals, CLG, TSM, Cloud9, Dignitas. People see these 5 teams and say, look, those are all competitive. So to have 2 of them going at it like this, anybody could win.
Yeah, they definitely could, and it's going to be exciting to see how Altec is going to perform as Dignitas in that conversation for being one of the best teams. It's more surprising to see teams like that make a roster move than it is to see, Liquid or Equifox or whoever shaking things up if they are struggling more. So Altec, I mean, maybe he will be able to kind of fill in that role immediately, but sometimes it can take some time.
I mean, he was on the team that managed to place 4th despite a lot of expectations not being that high for his team last split. He was the 80 carry for FlyQuest when they made lots of surprises for lots of fans and analysts alike, and maybe he'll be able to step things up here for Dignitas there in the bottom lane. Definitely on a champion that's more than capable of doing that. Caitlyn has been so strong in the meta for a while. The siege situations that she can put herself in, the amount of protection she can have thanks to her range, her powerful laning phase, lots of tools to work with.
Yeah, and they've been set up for success in this first game here from Altec, and they can look for the binding, maybe able to force out a flash if Smoothie does not feel, no? Okay.
Whoop.
Just going to sidestep that very calmly, but
He knew.
Caitlyn Morgana should be a bot lane that has the advantage in the 2v2. Like, you should be able to really bully out the Thresh and this Varus. Caitlyn should have the edge in that kind of 80 versus 80 battle, and you give the favor over to Morgana here, I think, as well, with the Black Shield to answer that death sentence.
A little bit of trading going on in this top part of the map as Someday and Impact found each other. Contract's the one who takes the biggest bopping of the 3, though. A few auto attacks and a belly slam there from Someday will shove him back just a little bit.
Yeah, and they're just trying to basically track where Shrimp is going to be starting. Getting a ward on the Raptors there is going to allow them to see that they are starting on this camp and give them some insight into where he may end up going. Contract is actually looking like he's positioning to start on the red buff and not the Raptors, but it may be a leash start. We haven't seen this too often, although we are seeing more and more of kind of like the leashing style. It just has very frequently been Raptors gets leashed by mid lane, bot lane is leashing red, and they're doing this kind of super start for the jungler.
Makes life very easy for the jungler. He gets such an incredible sprint out of the gate. But this time around, Contract's not going to bother with that chicken camp. He's very, very low. We know Olaf likes to stay low in the jungle.
Yep, he does like to stay low, but you have to be a bit nervous, and that's why he's popping those potions, because he is going up against the Lee Sin, and if you get invaded on and you are too low, you will go down, right? So it's kind of that balance. How confident are you that the jungler is not going to come invade you? Because if you are, you actually don't want to use potions until you've fully completed your clear, as that will speed it up.
Shrimp clearing out his red buff,
nice
after
bind.
starting the chicken camp on his own, but yeah, big. Instantly getting one of those bindings down onto Sneaky there.
And they're going to be pushing up. Should be level 2 here very shortly, and there it is.
Yep, controlling the lane. Once that second wave of melee minions dies, that means they can hit that second level, get that ever so important second ability, and just take control from there. Contract still trying to farm up as Shrimp makes his way towards the top lane.
Oh, Impact is way far up, and Shrimp is already behind him, but Impact backing off, and Gragas can't follow up. They shouldn't be able to get a kill.
Well, Impact gonna face check that brush, putting himself in a spot where he soaks so much damage. Even if he doesn't die here, he's not in any spot to go back into that lane.
Yeah, that's really well done by Shrimp. You know, easy gank, big here, roaming the mid lane, looking for the binding on Jensen, point blank.
Ooh, Jensen with a good flash, keeping himself safe, getting away from that one. Forcing out both summoner spells was a good rotation from Big.
Yeah, very well done. It doesn't even cost him his flash or anything, just walking straight up onto Jensen, forcing those coming out, and now Shrimp is here. He has his flash. Big has still waited around. Smoothie's coming up. This could be a 3v3.
C9 trying to make something happen, but instead their own jungler is going to be in some trouble. He's taken out. And first blood goes over to Keen, who gets double buffs for himself. As Smoothie now going to be chased after. Shrimp goes over the wall, trying to slow him down. Tempest triple, Big right behind, looking to find that binding if he can. Sonic Wave, waiting for the resonating strike, and he's got it. 2 for 0, Dignitas.
I mean, they saw Big was still there on the ward, so I'm not sure what C9 really thought they could get done when Jensen didn't have his summoners. They've kind of been pushed out. Smoothie, you know, comes up, but he's only level 2. This is not very intimidating. Now Jensen
no, Jensen! No summoner spells means he's easy pickings for Shrimp and Keen.
Wow, Shrimp has just kind of walked around the map and destroys top lane. Now mid lane is honestly tragic from this point. That's Keen with 2 early kills and double buffs. Going up against Jensen, who cannot be happy about how this has turned out. But, I mean, they knew that Big was still there. Yes, they don't 100% know that Shrimp is there, but you knew that Shrimp was topside, so there's a high chance that he could come down. And they opted into this fight where Jensen cannot really contribute whatsoever. They pick up these 2 kills. Jensen is still hanging around mid lane afterwards and goes down as well. So Dignitas really nice roams around, but C9 perhaps underestimating their opponents or not showing that respect over.
Look at Jensen just caught out there.
Yeah, it's just a bit of greed, right? He wants to fully shove the wave, reset it, and try to deny some of that farm before he bases, but he's gonna get punished for that. And the fact that King is able to get his Hex Core upgrade on his early base is so good. That is one of the big reasons that Victor had kind of fallen out of priority, is because they increased the price of this first upgrade for your laser, where you essentially get the double proc of that laser. It just made it so hard to actually ever get to that gold amount. And now you'll very often see Victors in competitive play, have to base, and they'll get Lucidity, they'll get a couple Doran's rings, they'll, be building all these little bits and pieces before they can ever build up that big of an amount. But having it this early means you have completely control.
Being in control, you saw the stat pop up on the side of the screen there. So far in summer 2017, Shrimp is 5-0 on lead, and making the plays like he's making so far, it's easy to see why.
Yeah, I mean, Lee Sin has just been a dominant champion. And you can play this champion very well. It does crush. And we were hearing about Sven Skaren, something like 9-1 now, I believe, on the Lee Sin, right? So there's a lot of people that are crushing on this champion because it's so strong early on. You can be extremely proactive, and it has an extremely high skill cap. So the players who are the best at it really do dominate, which is why I wasn't expecting Dignitas to be given the option to actually have that this late in the draft, right? But C9 prioritized some other things and maybe punished for that a little bit now.
Slipped through the cracks, and Dignitas is making the most of it. 3-0, the current score, almost 2,000 gold up, only 6 minutes into the game. Is not a good start here for Cloud9, but they're still not completely in trouble just yet. Got to do everything they can to try to keep tabs on that Lee Sin, though. Working towards that Warrior enchantment. Already has the Tracker's Knife, which is usually not considered a combat item, but for Lee Sin, it's a little bit different with what he can do with the Ward Hop.
Yeah, the mobility does allow you to be more combat effective, right? You can jump around, you can enter some of those plays more, and Sneaky getting chunked out really hard. Olaf is down here, but I don't even know if you can really take this fight at this point because Sneaky got chunked out so badly, he can't really enter.
And even if they try, you saw good placement of the Black Shield. It stops the play, it stops the death sentence. Altec just walks away.
And now they're just trying to take this advantage, put it into that Cloud9 jungle. Going to be able to steal away that red camp. Impact getting Someday low.
Impact doing a good job here in this 1v1. We talked about how he was seemingly in a bit of a slump during summer, but now he's holding his own easily against Someday, who, like you said during the draft, is somebody who's really been coming into his own.
Yeah, Someday is the guy that most people are pointing at as the best top laner in North America right now. But Impact, despite actually being sent back to base from Shrimp's early gank, more than holding his own, starting to bully Someday up in CS a little bit. So definitely doing well for himself, but it's by no means a enormous advantage or anything like that.
Right. It's still impressive considering he's also got 1 Dorian's ring compared to the 3.
Yeah.
I do believe these are also the post-nerf.
It does not stack anymore. Right. So the passive, you do not get mana back from every Doran's ring every time you kill a minion, but that said, there's still base mana regen on the item, and it still gives you the AP, so it still is very strong in lane. It's just, you don't necessarily have infinite mana like you did before. And some people are experimenting with some different variations on the build. I've been seeing people sometimes go for a Doran's ring and a couple Dark Seals, sometimes mixing just one of those in there. But either way, it still is a powerful early game build.
Keen doing well here in the mid lane with that Hex Core upgraded to Mark II. Just like you mentioned earlier, normally this is going to be put on hold for a while. You're going to see more of those starting items instead, but this is exactly where Victor wants to be. That early game could not have gone better for the Dignitas mid laner.
I mean, Victor's oftentimes you run out of mana, and then you're stuck at this kind of back timing where you have maybe 800 gold, 900 gold or something, and you need like 1250 for the upgrade. So you can't really stick around without any mana, or you risk just getting bullied and falling too far behind. So you have to do these earlier bases, and you can't get these ideal buy timings. It's kind of like the whole thought process of if you can wait till a BF sword in bot lane and then base, but you're mana reliant on the Victor, so you can't always stay around and do that.
Wards being placed around this bottom side of the jungle from Dignitas as well. You can see down there throughout Cloud9's southern territory, there's a lot of vision being placed down. Pings coming out too. Dignitas knows how far ahead Shrimp is right now. They know that they can capably invade enemy territory and see if they can make plays.
They have spotted Someday though on this roam, and they may try to collapse on him over by mid lanes.
Altec big in this 2v2 with Sneaky and Smoothie, able to find the root, able to find the damage. The headshots coming in. Altec still looking to find a little bit more damage. Can't quite do it just yet. Piercing arrow. Almost able to take down Big, and the ignite! Smoothie, that #1 support in North America, showing how you earn the title. Nearly going to be taken down
low.
himself.
Victor's coming down here now too. We'll see if Keen can clean up these kills.
Oh, both of them so very low. Sneaky managed to get away, but Altec will make sure Smoothie does not. Dignitas now with 3 bodies in the bottom lane, looking to take that turret first blood. See if they can get that extra objective, that extra bonus gold.
Yeah, and they certainly will be able to. They can even donate this gold over to Altec, which it looks like they will do. He may have wanted to deny some of that CS, but instead just going to try to hard shove it into the next turret. So now C9 trying to answer on the top side, but Someday TPing back in at full health. I don't think this is somebody you can even try to dive.
Definitely risky to attempt when he has the ultimate available. Sneaky trying to force the fight here onto Altec, but Shrimp is there waiting to make sure his ally's not going to be dropping anytime soon. Sneaky goes down, King going to be bursted. Jensen looking to show off those 1v1 talents. Loses some health of his own, but not afraid to go up against that Victor.
Yeah, fighting very evenly against Keen, despite being really behind in gold. And Shrimp has just been everywhere, though. That has been the big difference maker. Getting so much done on the bot side. Not only do they get first turret, they kill Sneaky again right as he respawns. Or rather, he actually didn't go down the first time, did get out, but comes back to die after Smoothie had already gone down. So definitely Dignitas getting a lot of work done around the map. And will have their opportunities to try to get ahead in this game.
And now they're going for that first Ocean Drake as well. Normally a Drake that's considered not super effective just by itself, but when you get it early on in the game, when it's the first one to spawn and people are still in laning phase, it can actually do quite a lot.
Yeah, and even if it's not going to be super effective, when you are ahead in a game like this, you want to take every advantage that you can get, and you want to leave yourself the chances to close out the game in multiple different ways. So if you can start stacking up these dragons before C9 can actually contest, if you get to the later stages, then you have the ability to threaten Elder Dragon for that super powerful late game buff, which can help you close out.
One thing I'm also taking a look at right now is they'll compare the items between Altec and Sneaky. Sneaky with Berserker's Greaves and part of a Bilgewater Cutlass compared to Altec having a completed Infinity Edge.
Yeah.
He's going for that first big item. He's way scarier.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal being that far behind in itemization, and he is down a lot of gold. He's down like 1,200 gold. Jensen is actually closer to Keen as far as that goes because he has kept his CS up pretty well and is down those kills, but it's not as big of a discrepancy now.
Good start for Altec so far, but again, plenty of game left to play to see how well he ends up meshing here with Dignitas, laying down those future robotic traps and not allowing Sneaky and Smoothie to pass anywhere towards that bottom lane. They got to take the long way around. As Big, once again, hanging around near mid lane with that bottom lane first turret down. That means that bottom lane is likely going to be rotating around, looking to find more objectives elsewhere.
Exactly, and the question becomes, where do they get their next advantage, right? They are looking to try to threaten a dive onto Jensen now. There's a lot of attention being given over to this mid lane. Big is here, Shrimp is behind, so they may try to go for a play. But Contracts and Smoothie are in the area, so this certainly is something that could get turned around.
It's risky. Does Dignitas want to make that risk, though? Instead, looks like they're going to hang around, look to steal away this enemy blue buff. They've got Someday coming in. Impact's there. He sees it happening, but I don't think you're going to have much other than a Winds of War attempted steal, which will not go through thanks to the smite from Shrimp.
And it's just good play from Shrimp, right? He steals away the red buff on the last rotation. Now he steals away the blue buff, just taking golden experience out of the other jungler's hands and putting it over towards you. They know that C9 will be hard-pressed to actually contest them at a neutral objective without having kind of the added defense of that turret. So now they're going to go grab the Rift Herald. They're trying to get edges across the map. They could actually take this top side and look to rush down that turret with their 4 members and the Rift Herald. And I think that's probably what they're going to try to do here.
Yep, you got Big and Shrimp both coming around from behind, looking to cut off anyone who might dare to stick around. Meanwhile, Sneaky's going to be left alone here in bottom lane to take down this first turret. Tries to stop the minions from hitting Contracts, but unfortunately can't do it, so that's going to be a little bit of extra wasted time there, as that back does find itself canceled out. But Dignitas takes down the top lane, tier 1 as well, and they've still got Rift Herald to use. They decided they didn't want to pop it up there, try to go for a tier 2 or anything crazy. Keep your eye on that one for the next 4 minutes.
Yeah, if Jensen does base, they can actually just drop it. So Jensen has gone back to base. I'm not sure if they spotted that or just anticipating it. Either way, it's just Thresh now here in the mid lane. So this turret is almost for sure gone. Like the Rift Herald is going to chunk it extremely low, and then you just walk up, finish that off. So now they are ahead in the trade. Because typically you would say when a team is losing, if you go 1-for-1 in turrets, that is good for them. But this is now 2-for-1. And Dignitas is going to be able to extend that lead some more. They need to extend their vision now, really start to aggressively push Cloud9 out of their own jungle, start to try to farm both sides of the map, because that is how you really extend the gold lead from here. At 14 minutes, it's not like there's a Baron to threaten or anything like that. It's just more about whittling down your opponents through securing more and more farm.
And securing that farm has done good stuff for Dignitas so far. The 2 turrets and the farm advantages they have put them at a 3K gold lead 14 minutes in. Cloud9 doing a good job stealing away the Dignitas red, trying to equalize some of those buff losses that they incurred earlier. Still trying to grab some objectives too, playing whatever they can to even this game up.
And C9 is just trying to avoid Dignitas on the map. They're just trying to run around the map, pick up objectives. Yeah, it's very smart, especially, the fact that Siki is able to siege down these turrets, that is actually pretty effective with the Zerkagreaves, but you talked about how behind he was in itemization compared to Altec. It doesn't really matter if you're both just shooting turrets, right? So if you can avoid the team fights, if you can trade gold evenly or hope to even trade up, then you are closing the gap percentage-wise over time. And it starts to mean less and less the further you get into the game. So the fact that Cloud9 has at least made this into a relatively slow-paced game after the very disastrous start in the mid lane is a positive sign for them.
And we were talking about both these teams being in the discussion for the best team in the North American LCS in summer. And one thing that separates a really good team from a team that's getting there but not quite at that point is your ability to play from behind, your ability to recognize, hey, this isn't going the way we want it to, let's pump the brakes a little bit, slow down, and allow this to get to a spot where it's better for us. Cloud9 is showing that kind of patience and that kind of discipline.
And I think part of why they're able to do this is just look at all the wards on the map from the blue side, from Cloud9's team. If you look at, they have multiple wards up in the red side of Dignitas. They have a lot of defensive vision. They're fighting for vision very, very well. And I think that they're actually winning the vision game despite being down in gold. So, they're playing this part of the game better, and that is why you're able to avoid your opponents. That is why you're able to find these edges where you can steal away a camp or steal away a red buff when you really, by all rights, should not be able to.
Every little bit of vision, every little bit of information is one more small victory for a team. Cloud9 doing well in terms of farm for themselves too. You've got a 15 advantage there in top lane, 15 advantage in mid lane, 15 advantage in the jungle. The only place they're falling behind is in that 80 carry role, but up against a Caitlyn, you would expect her to have a farm lead.
Yeah, especially with what happened bot lane. You know, Smoothie roam mid, died, then they get dove kind of bot. Smoothie dies again. Seeky comes back to lane, dies. Like it was definitely not like an even lane to start with, and then it was swung pretty heavily out of control by some of the other things that happened.
Dignitas wanting to go for the second Ocean Drake, setting up the trap line, keeping Cloud9 away however they can. Altec, the one who started this fight off. Shrimp there too. Contracts are going to go here into the fight. Ragnarok popped, but he's taken so very low. Gets Keen pretty low as well, but Dig will take the Drake.
Dig does get that dragon. It's second Ocean, so it is going to help him a fair bit in these kind of extended siege situations, or if you get poked out. It does help a lot against champions like Varus, because you know, if you get hit with some of those piercing arrows, you can just sit back, get out of combat, regen that health back up, and it's one of the reasons that Keen is not going to be sent back to base, despite getting chunked out.
And look at that, the next Drake is going to be Ocean as well. If you can get 3 of those up and running, that third buff is actually really, really effective.
Yeah, we have actually seen a number of games that are kind of ended through this never-ending siege where the team just doesn't ever have to base because they're staying at full HP and mana through having that triple Ocean. We'll see if Dignitas is able to set up those kind of long siege situations, because they do have a good comp for it. Victor can help to zone off turrets. You have the Caitlyn traps and long range for actually hitting those turrets, and you can continuously just step up, get a shot or two in, and look to poke those down.
Meanwhile, Impact's pushing up here in the top lane. Still doing good for himself. One of his strong performances so far. Clears away the entire wave effortlessly, as Galio normally is able to do. Spirit Visage fully completed onto him. His first item really wants to be tanky against the AP damage of both his lane opponent and that Victor that got the 2 kills early on. A tanky approach coming out from Lee Sin this time as well. It's always interesting to see the builds that come out from champions like Lee Sin that have so many different options. A lot of times you see Black Cleavers, you see of these more bruiser type items. This time around, looks like potentially going for a Dead Man's Plate. Just wants to be fast, be tanky, and be that initiator.
Yeah, it is a little bit surprising, as I do think that the Warrior Black Cleaver is kind of the most common competitive build, and especially from ahead, it's very strong, and he got all these early kills. Oftentimes, you do want to see people build up a little bit more damage to try to snowball the game through that, but there's different thought processes about how to snowball the game. You can go tanky, and sometimes you can outpace the itemization of your opponents, right? Like, it's going to be so long before Sneaky gets Armor Pen. Like, he needs to build up his Zeal item, his Hurricane, or whatever he wants. Then maybe he can start thinking about it. And if you could be sitting on, like, a Dead Man's plus a Gargoyle, Stoneplate, and Tabbies by the time before he gets Last Whisper, like, it's so hard to ever kill you.
Yeah, there's no way you're going to get that Lee Sin off of you without help from multiple members of your team. And putting that kind of pressure on the Sneaky might be exactly what Dignitas needs to keep him from accomplishing that goal that he talked about before this match of wanting to take these guys off the rails and set them down that road to ruin that Dignitas sometimes trends towards.
And that being said, I think that C9 has stalled out this game enough that if it comes down to a team fight, the gold really does not mean that much anymore. Yes, there are advantages in Dignitas' court. Like, that is the big thing, like the item completions. So, you know, Altec has just completed a second item. That is going to be very nice for them. But, you know, if C9 fights when they're all on 2 items, Dignitas is not going to be on 3 items. They're going to be on, you know, 2 items and like a little component or something like that. Yeah. And at that point, the goalie doesn't really matter. It comes down to how you actually perform within the fight. And C9 has a very strong initiation. They have a very strong team fight. So Dignitas, by not snowballing this game at all, have almost gotten it back to a point where it's pretty even, and they've kind of lost most of their advantage of the game at the start.
And unfortunate there for the Dig boys, having that explosive early game and not being able to translate it into further leads. 3 turrets down on the side of Cloud9 means Dignitas was able to take down that entire outer ring, but they just have not succeeded at all into pushing into enemy territory, pressuring tier 2s, getting down wards, anything like that.
Oh, and they're going to look for the engage. Galio could come in.
Contract's trying to go deep in here. Binding finds its way onto Smoothie. Contract's backing out. Victor ultimate going to be laid down onto Impact. Hold to safety by the Lantern. Shrimp behind on the flank. Not able to get himself around where he needed to be. Forced to pop the flash. Was not able to get the kick. Everyone disengaging.
Yeah, nice disengage there from Dig. That is some of the major cooldowns used by Cloud9 to get in there. Varus ultimate spent. The Ragnarok spent, as well as the Heroic Entrance. So 3 of those key initiation ultimates are down. We'll see if Dignitas wants to try to force a play now, knowing that C9 is without theirs.
Like they somewhat do. Shrimp gonna be caught out though, burst it down. Jensen grabbing the kill credit for that one, as now Contract's gonna be juggled back. Dignitas without that Lee Sin though, without that playmaking potential, they've got to be careful. 4 versus 5. Black Shield onto Someday, keeping him safe from the taunt. Still have to be aware of that shockwave as well. Jensen has not had to use it just yet, and if Dignitas loses track of that for even a second, it could be disaster.
It really can, but it looks like C9 can't get anything much more off of it. Here is the play of the taunt landing, followed up right by that hook from Smoothie. Very well done, pulls him in. And despite the fact that he has a lot of armor, Jensen is also very strong, and C9 has a good amount of mixed damage. With the magic damage coming out of Galio and the Orianna, plus the physical coming out, and even true damage from Olaf. So Shrimp going to go down very quickly.
Shrimp really has to look out for those death sentences coming after him. You might be ahead on the Lee Sin, even building tanky, but just that chain CC power from Cloud9. Very, very difficult to get away from.
It really is. I mean, almost all of them have CC. The only one without it is just Contract with that slow. But if you get tagged by any of this, you can expect to be hit by 2 to 3 CCs in a row. I mean, Galio alone has 3 forms of CC.
Yeah.
Resh has a couple. There's a Shockwave from Jensen, the Root from the Ultimate of Varus. So you have to be very sure about your initiations, and unless you're running something like a QSS or whatever, which sometimes you need to see Lee Sins get against comps like this, simply to make plays.
I mean, there's a reason that Keen has cleansed this game on the Victor instead of a different summoner spell, something like a Ghost or Ignite or anything else. He wants to make sure that that catch potential is not going to seal his game.
I mean, it's so tough because Lee Sin has to dive in to like kick people in and create these plays, but even if you hit a Q on Sneaky or Jensen, if Impact is standing on top of him, channeling his taunt, you can't go in. Like, you will not be able to pull off your play. So it's something that you're going to have to be very wary of, and unless C9 kind of mispositions or splits up, it's going to be really tough for Shrimp. Unless he gets a QSS or something that helps him enable that, or unless someone else starts the fight off first, like Someday, and he can follow up.
Cloud9 has decided they're going to try to position for this third and final Ocean Drake. Shockwave popped onto Big, does not pull him backwards, but now it's going to be exploding into a team fight. Chaos Storm almost taking Smoothie out of the picture. Contracts brought low, more damage coming through. First kill goes through onto Sneaky. As now Impact is in the back line alone and stranded. Not going to be getting away from this one anytime soon. Jensen looking to take down that enemy jungler if he can. But Shrimp will find the escape over the wall. Sonic Wave gets him out to safety as Big hangs around near that Drake. Not going to be doing it too much longer though. Health bars are low. Pings are coming out on towards Baron Nashor. Jensen popping the Ghost, takes down Shrimp, but not quite. The shield keeps him alive, but only for a moment. Jensen makes sure he stops the Baron possibility by removing the enemy jungler, but Altex got revenge and fires the ace in the hole.
Contracts wasn't there in time, couldn't block the shot, but that was so nice from Jensen, popping the Ghost, flashing over the wall, and killing Shrimp off, and then Smoothie with the Lantern in place to get him out safely.
And you gotta respect Jensen saying, I know they might go for Baron, but there's no way they will if this guy dies.
Yeah, and here is the play again. So much AoE coming out. Just look at the Victor ultimate, the laser through 3 members. Smoothie is already chunked out of the fight. Contracts is being forced. I think that Someday had some very nice positioning, kind of zone some of those members out as well. And once Sneaky's down, there's not much behind Impact, so he's gonna get trained down. A little bit silly kind of starting up the Dragon here from Shrimp. I think he was just using the Q to try to get out, but he gets chunked very low, and this gives Jensen the confidence to pop the Ghost, flash over the wall, and look for this kill. And he is able to pick it up. Smoothie sitting in the back, does get him out.
Good stuff from Smoothie there too, being taken down below 100 HP, but hanging around in the fight, still being relevant, giving that escape path to Jensen by the end. Damage in the last fight, Jensen top of the charts for his team as per usual, but Keen, the big winner in the fight overall, almost 4K from that Victor.
His ultimate and laser were so well placed at the start of the fight. As soon as they caught Smoothie with the binding, everyone was grouped up, and even though you're just hitting that front line, this Victor is very strong. He already has his Void Staff like super early on. Which I think is very intelligent itemization, knowing that Contracts is going to be building towards a Spirit Visage and a Gargoyle Stoneplate, and Impact already has his Spirit Visage, so you can go at this point just a build that's going to shred frontline. You don't have to necessarily get to the back line, because this is 2 sets of teams with tanks, with like high DPS mid laners and AD carries, and you can essentially both just hit each other's tanks, and the team that does the most DPS wins, and Void Staff is going to help massively with that.
Absolutely agree. The Victor's so scary on 4-0 and 0. Leandri's Torment built by Jensen, so a little bit of magic penetration there as well, but more for those targets that don't have a bunch built up. Not nearly as effective against somebody who's piling on a bunch of MR as a Void Staff would be. Cloud9 still 3 to 8 in terms of kills, but that gold difference hasn't changed, is it?
No, it really hasn't. And the fact that they had 2,000 plus gold lead at what, like
6 minutes.
6 minutes, right? But the fact that we're now 26 minutes into the game and it's not that much bigger is a bit concerning for them. They're still in a good position. They still have very good late game scaling, so it's not like they are at a disadvantage, but they're just not where you would hope as far as having the lead from the early game that they had.
Gotta love the old tank fight.
Yeah.
These two smacking each other around with their CC and AoE, only to not do anything meaningful at all. Contracts clearing away some control ward vision here, tossing those axes over the wall to keep his opponents at bay while he does so, but Baron will likely be a point of great contention here very soon. We're getting close to the 30-minute mark. We're getting to the point where teams are tanky enough and do enough damage to not just be destroyed by it if they get caught out. This is likely going to become the next big fight.
It really is, and Altec is on this Energizer build with the Static Shiv, Rapid Fire, IE. That is the core, and this is such a powerful point in the game for you. The Rapid Fire makes your Static Shiv damage recharge faster. You get the range of the Rapid Fire with the damage of the Static Shiv, and you also get that Warlord's proc recharging a lot faster too, which gives you move speed, which gives you healing in the team fight. So Caitlyn is at a super, super strong point in the game right now, and if Altec can stay untouched, he's going to be very powerful. And it's good for Dignitas that most of their advantages and most of their gold are on their mid laner and AD carry, who are going to be those key members.
Both teams are playing this one pretty cautiously, it seems. 3 to 8 overall. Neither team really willing to make any crazy big risks, but Dignitas sees this Baron as an opportunity instead of a risk. They've got the trap line down in the river. It's difficult for Cloud9 to get in a position to do a lot here. Contracts coming around from the side. Dignitas trying to get himself away from this. That's a pretty big hook. Altec still going to be keeping himself alive for now. Contracts trying to make his way into the fight. Gargoyle Stoneplate keeping him tanky. Shrimp trying to escape. Impact soaking damage as well. Someday forced to flash out. Dignitas keeps everyone alive, but they have to expend some summoner spells to do it, and health bars are blinking.
Yeah, C9, you have to feel, comes out a bit ahead in that fight with a lot of ultimates still available. Impact going back in.
Oh, it's not over yet. Altec getting off some decent damage there, regenerating with the 3 Ocean Drakes as well as the Honey Fruit. You can see Shrimp's health bar actively climbing back up. This is the effect of those Ocean Drakes.
I mean, look at Altec. He's pretty much right back to full health now, and Shrimp's health is flying back up. C9 did have mid lane priority, though, so they're shoving that in. The wave is going to be crashing into tier 2. They know that Dignitas is now back on this Baron, though, and they are coming over. Contracts is very low and has no ultimate, so it could be tough for him to get in.
Olaf without an ultimate is really not the same champion as when he has it. They're able to catch Impact out a little bit there, put some decent damage into him. Baron still below 3,000 HP. Dig wants to get this. They take it so close to dead, and they do secure it for themselves. A nice shockwave onto 2, but it's not enough to make a huge deal just yet. Impact going to be hit by Ace in the hole. Death sentence comes out, but Smoothie can't do a whole lot with that just yet. Dignitas now with Baron under their belts. It's all about what they can do with this power play.
Yeah, very well done. And the Ocean Dragon's coming big into play, actually, there, because C9 had the health advantage at the end of that initial scuffle, but Dignitas regens so much health, they're able to stay around, continuously threaten this Baron, and the fact the Contracts was so low without his ultimate, he was never going to be able to get in for a steal. If he tried, he simply would have been gunned down by Altec and Keen, and it would have been secured by Dig anyway. So very well maneuvered by Dignitas to essentially guarantee that Baron.
And this is going to be the first time this game that we've really seen them set up shop outside the enemy tier 2s. They just have not been able to do it whatsoever yet. But Baron buff should be that ticket they need to pick up some of that standing gold. We saw yesterday in Cloud9 versus Liquid what can happen to a team when they've already taken down all the tier 2 turrets. The Baron power plays can't be that impressive if they can't break the base, but there's a lot of resources Dig could acquire from this.
A little bit strange placement on that trap line that's so far back. You know, you'd want to place them much closer up to where the tier 2 turret is to give you that defense while you're sieging, but I guess this does allow you to kind of retreat back to that trap line. Either way, they should be able to start this siege up. Gragas is pushing in bot side, trying to threaten turrets down there, buffing up those Baron minions. That's a massive wave, so it should get knocked down very shortly. And as...
Oh no, Chain of Corruption, black shielded. It would have found its mark onto Altec, but instead that protection from Big, that timing, coming in clutch exactly as it needs to. Dignitas now with a 5,500 gold lead, building that to over 6,000 when this turret falls. Pushing up towards that enemy base. Cloud9 has to try to hold this. Losing an inhibitor turret is opening the door for Dignitas.
It's going down so fast, I don't think they can hold it at all.
Maybe?
It's gone.
Impact channeling the taunt. Not quite enough just yet. That empowered cannon minion doing his work slowly but surely. Plink, plink,
It's a little engine that
Blink,
could.
he did it! Blue turret destroyed. Altec, the one who ultimately takes the credit. KSing that poor little cannon minion who tried so hard. Now the ultimate comes in from Impact, who lands right on top of a trap. Doesn't really do anything, though. Still had the can't be disabled from the channeling of the hero's entrance. And now Dignitas taking down inhibitor number 1, pushing into Cloud9 territory. They're going to get plenty of extra map pressure from that. Baron still up for another minute. They could look for more.
Yeah, they're doing very well with this Baron, and now finally starting to really kind of blow the game open. The fact they've knocked down that mid inhib this quickly with that little resistance from Cloud9. Cloud9 is going to have to fight more heavily, I feel like, for this bottom inhibitor. If you give up a second one, you really are going to be up against it.
1 is doable. 2 means you're in trouble. 3 is pretty much GG in terms of losing those inhibitors. But Cloud9's got to find some way to make this fight work. Trap gets placed down.
Shredding the turrets.
Altec does so much damage with this build. Contracts on the front line going to be bursted very, very low, very, very quickly. Impact and Contracts, supposedly the wall for Cloud9, but they are just being beaten to a pulp as Dignitas will brute force down this turret, take down the inhibitor afterwards. That Baron got them so much, as it.
Yeah, it got them a ridiculous amount, and now the Mountain Dragon is up. They can easily retreat back to that. They're still sitting at pretty much full health and mana thanks to Triple Ocean. This is kind of the never-ending siege dream that you want with that Triple Ocean Dragon. And the fact that they have Caitlyn, who can siege very safely, very effectively, has the team behind her, give her the Black Shield. It's not like Smoothie can even land a hook and find some sort of miracle initiation there because they have this protection coming out of Big. So Dignitas has done very well with what they have been given.
It's funny how you mentioned earlier that you've seen games end in this never-ending siege scenario.
Yeah.
This ends up playing out being one that happens by that same exact playbook. Dignitas utilizing the resources available to them and the RNG hand that they've been dealt exactly the way they need to.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it just goes to show how effective the different dragons can be in different ways. Obviously, everyone is hoping for Triple Infernal, right? That is the easiest.
Everybody wants that.
To be the most effective with, but the Ocean Dragon has different types of effectiveness, has different strengths. It showed a lot of power around the Baron fight where they regen up, it allows them to secure that, and a lot of power in this fact that, C9 is constantly going back to the well, healing back up, but Dignitas is able to stay around, never run out of mana, never really get poked out either. It just becomes so hard. It's like, how does C9 stop you from sieging? Well, you can't poke them out. They're never going to run out of mana. The only way is then a hard engage, and now you're trying to hard engage through Lee Sin and the Gragas onto a black shielded Caitlyn.
With 5 traps.
Exactly. Like, that's so tough to do. So Dignitas really making it work.
And we've even seen when Cloud9 tries to force the play. Sneaky fires off the Chains of Corruption, but Big is right there with the timing on the Black Shield. Oh, this could be exactly the cheese they need. Sunday walks forward, Death Sentence doesn't find it, and now Dignitas knows.
They pulled the trigger pretty early on that. For having 4 men camped in the brush,
yeah, that
kind
was
of wandered out.
That was a lot of patience.
That was pretty anticlimactic.
Yeah. All right, well, we're not going to see that play out the way that we thought it might. Instead, we're going to see the Dignitas Siege Machine turn the engines on once again. Look to find this final lane of obstacles. They've only got a couple of turrets left to take before they'll get that 3rd in-hit point we talked about earlier. There's the turret line that you wanted to see.
Yeah. This one is much harder to deal with. And someday just walking forward, tanking it up so you can get some shots in here from Altec, knows he's going to regen back. And every time you trade damage, it goes in your favor. And oh, Shrimp deep.
Shrimp trying to get the kick. He finds it onto Jensen, but he only knocks him to the side, not back to the rest of Dignitas. It's enough to make C9 retreat and give up this tier 2.
And to get Jensen's flash. So you can try to repeat that a little bit later because Shrimp didn't knock him to his flash. He used the Q, he used the Ward Hop, but they're already on the inhibitor turret. This could be a 3rd inhibitor going down, which will likely seal the fate of Cloud9. They need to try for an engage here.
They've got to try to fight. The Ghost is used by Contracts, but he doesn't have the opportunity to get himself in there. Flash away from Altec, keeping himself out of that shockwave. Sneaky now going to be juggled back by the power of the cast. He does get himself back to safety. Impact trying to tank here in the middle, but the damage is just so extreme. The penetration items from the Dignitas carries means that these Cloud9 tanks are not safe any longer. Someday, keeping them zoned away while the final inhibitor falls. Now Dignitas has so many minions in the enemy base. They have the regeneration from the Ocean Drake. It's all over, but the very end, the Nexus turrets themselves being taken down now. Number 1's out of there, number 2 at barely any HP. 3 shots from Alltech will take that one out. The Nexus itself now the target. Cloud9 has got to pull the trigger, but Contracts is going to be forced out immediately. Impact trying to tank. You cannot tank 1 versus 5. Someday grab the kill credit as Dignitas will put this one in the book and take down Cloud9 in game number 1 just after a moment. First, they got to teach Sneaky a lesson about trying to take them off the road. They burn him down. They put the rest of Cloud9 in the dirt, and they will find a double kill for their top laner, bringing down Jensen as well. The Nexus goes, and Dig will find 1 for 0.
Very well done by Dignitas. Methodical game 1 here against Cloud9. Not too much to criticize. I mean, they did not push the pace very heavily after their early game lead, but they were able to take the guaranteed advantages. They secure the neutral objectives, and I think that their play around Baron was so well done. That is really what blew the game open. You know, utilizing all the regen they had from this triple Ocean Dragon to secure this Baron in this elongated fight. Then they take down multiple inhibitors on their first Baron power play, and that pretty much sealed the game. I think they played it very well, and the team fights always focusing on the front line, knowing that they were in a position of power and didn't have to do anything risky.
I mean, we talked about how it seemed like the game was going nowhere from 6 minutes to 26 minutes, and then you just said it. As soon as they get Baron, all of a sudden 2 inhibitors are down. The game looks completely hopeless for Cloud9.
Yeah, it was brutal, and the fact of the matter is, you know, we talked about them not extending the lead because generally you want to see teams push the pace and utilize their advantages as much as possible, really blow those gold leads wide open, but they didn't have to because they had a very strong late game comp as well. They weren't going to be disadvantaged going late game, and they showed that. They played very calmly, very patiently, and a great debut for Alltech.
Yeah, Alltech had a heck of a game. All of Dignitas did, but we're going to go ahead and throw things over to the analysts to see what they make of that win from Dig.
Thank you very much, Captain Flowers. Dignitas out to a victory lead here in the series against C9. And Alltech, hey, welcome to Dignitas. Flexing that 8-man roster a little bit more, and they find success with it.
Yeah, 100% win rate so far. Seems like everything's going up.
Yeah, now put them back on the bench. Keep that 100% win rate alive. No, but let's look at how Dignitas did it. I loved Azale's point there, and funnily enough, it mirrored a point that you made to me during the game, which is that, you know, yes, they got out to a hot start with those early kills that fell in their favor, but Dignitas was very comfortable letting this game go late as well, given the champions that they had, you know, picked during that pick ban phase.
Yeah, I mean, despite how much of a lead they got early on, they really don't have great tools for forcing action super, super hard. Victor is more of a teamfight champion. Caitlyn can set up and make things annoying, but it's not like an Ashe Arrow. It's not a Varus ultimate. You can't force play super hard. A binding, you're hoping it hits maybe, and then with the Gragas and the Lee Sin, that's where you can really force things. But if you want to take it slow, you know, you can do that and just sit on your 3K gold lead. I mean, C9 did a good job, I think, closing it down to around 1.5 at some point, but they were losing super hard in objectives because there were so many Ocean Dragons going over to Dignitas.
Right, credit where credit's due to C9 for sticking in it, given how poorly the early game went for them. Of course, we saw, for example, Smoothie being able to grab a kill back, and both him and Sneaky narrowly escaping in a couple scenarios. But let's go back to this early game that was put together by Dignitas and all those early kills that they picked up.
And this all started with a level 2 roam coming out of Big, runs at Jensen, forces the flash out with the Dark Binding, and then it feels like C9 overcompensated in wanting to protect Jensen. He's your big force in the early game. You want him to have good early games, and he just lost double sums for almost nothing, and you know he's a target now. So you go there, you try and want to push the wave out or something to help him, and you end up with 3 people grouped up in a very disadvantageous situation. 2 of them go down, and then Jensen tunnels on finishing to push in that wave, and now he's caught out of position once again once they finish off the other members. So it felt like they had this idea of what they wanted to do about protecting Jensen and pushing that wave in, but it cost their whole early game to do it.
Yeah, Summer Split C9 seems to live or die by Jensen in the mid lane, and a lot of times their losses are a result of them almost overemphasizing that point of their win condition. For Team Dignitas, though, as you mentioned, they established that 3K gold lead and kind of let it sit for a little while they scale up in items and that team fighting power that they'll eventually be able to abuse in the late game. However, the biggest point of this entire game was that Baron secure by Team Dignitas. Talk to me, Mark, a little bit about how it was that it came to fall in their favor.
Dignitas is a team that plays very aggressive around Baron at the 20 to 30 minute mark, and they even tried that. They won a 2-for-0 at one point. They even tried forcing it right then. That's where you had that great play out of Jensen to flash the wall and finish off Shrimp there, who was kind of trying to get to his team.
Yeah.
And they were getting a little greedy trying to force the Baron. And then come 29 minutes after stalling out for a little bit more, they end up in this situation where they force the Baron, and C9's team comp is super ult reliant. Some team comps aren't. This one is. You need the ultimate on Olaf to get into a fight to deliver the Galio. Once that's out, they have no way to really force you off an objective. So very intelligent out of Dignitas. Let the Ocean Dragons heal you up. Sack your mid lane turret. C9's going to overextend doing that. And now they haven't reset yet. You've been healed up by your Ocean Dragon, and they're sitting on cooldowns while you don't really need yours. Victor Laser and Gravity Field with Caitlyn Traps is a ton of zone control that does not depend on your ultimates at all. And after that, it's just a free Baron.
Exactly. Triple Ocean Drake definitely gets you back up to full a lot quicker than most people would expect. Again, it's so crazy for us to be talking about Dignitas in contrast to the old meme around Baron this split. They're operating so well, and as you mentioned, composure for a lot of teams where it's lacking does seem to actually be available to Dignitas in spades in some ways. We saw Shrimp there noted as player of the game. It's important to recognize the fact that he's undefeated on this Lee Sin pick. So while we talk about people like Sven Skaren, being monsters on this champion, Shrimp is doing just the same, 6-0 now in just this summer split.
He's definitely put on a big performance. He knew to make all those plays in the early game, where to be. He even went topside early on and chunked out the Galio pick. So he was all over the map, and it put a ton of pressure on C9. And then once they kind of collapsed early, he knew to kind of ease up and focus more on controlling the game versus brute forcing plays.
I'd like to see, when maybe we'll get it here in game 2, what happens if both of these teams go into that 15 to 25 minute section of the game completely even in gold, where C9 doesn't give up those early kills so easily, and how does Dignitas play around a C9 squad that feels like they have a little bit more room to work with in the game?
It's an interesting question, just because when we talk about C9's mid to late game, it's usually not like, oh, this macro play is super smart. It's they picked a team fight, they executed it well, and they mopped you up off the floor. And and the thing with Dignitas is at 20 to 30, we know that they're forcing these crazy Barons. So it would be this kind of push and pull match where is Dignitas able to force Barons around C9, or will that lead to a team fight where C9 is all too happy to take it?
Yeah, it could be made or broken rather in that mid-game team fight. Now, let's recognize the fact that Dignitas looked good in their first victory against Immortals yesterday, and then gave up 2 games to end up losing the series. So when we talk about composure, they've got to keep it around them. We'll see if C9 can even up the score when we come back with Game 2 versus Team Dignitas. Don't touch that browse.